I've met so many people where it's like they're one person online and they're so different in person.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of like the mask and the personas versus like who they truly are.
Contempt is when you actually look down on somebody like they are less than you. The person that grew up in the good family is almost like the most wounded of all. I was homeless, single, and my accountant said to me, I think you're going to go bankrupt. Like, you don't have enough money to cover this. 95% of the people on this planet do not know what peace, contentment, joy, love, freedom, and authenticity feels like. The mind will replay what the heart wants to heal.
Oh, that's so good.
I love this quote. It's very spiritual, but Delulu is the Solulu.
Our identity is the reality we live in. It's a box that we play in, and we will not long-term out-achieve what our identity is.
What the parents suppress, the child will express. Don't waste time on this planet. Pursue every wound, every emotion, every story, every belief. Strip yourself bare and really...
Welcome back to the Inspired Life podcast, where we talk to inspiring people who are making impact on this world, but doing it in a balanced way. And my guest today, we've been speaking for a long time, and it's a pleasure to finally meet you. Nerida Bint is an emotional intelligence coach and educator who teaches women how to develop deep emotional self-awareness and become confident, emotionally intelligent coaches themselves. Through a compassionate, narrative-based approach, she helps women understand their emotional home, regulate their inner world, and guides them with clarity, with integrity. Her work is rooted in the belief that when women learn to rewrite their inner narratives, they can lead, coach, and heal with emotional intelligence. Nerida, thank you for joining me today.
It's so nice to finally be here, Lewis.
Finally.
I've been such a huge fan of your work for such a long time, so thanks for having me.
And likewise, it's like those people that you talk to online for so long, you finally meet. And something, just credit to you, I've met so many people where it's like they're one person online and they're so different in person. It's like, it's kind of like the mask and the personas versus like who they truly are. And as you know, energy doesn't lie. And you're just such a perfect match to how you portray yourself. So thank you for being a real human. I appreciate that. To kick things off, how do you describe what you do for people?
So I'm an emotional intelligence coach. I came to this work after decades of feeling really broken. I was diagnosed with depression at the age of 22. I always felt so lost and alone in the world. And to be honest, I struggled with suicide ideation my entire life. And I tried all the therapy, I did the counseling, I did the retreats, I did everything I could. And it wasn't until I understood emotional intelligence and understood it all made sense why I felt so broken, unworthy, and alone was because of my childhood. So many of my needs didn't get met. And there were so many things, I inherited my parents' emotional home. They did the best they could, and I absolutely love them. However, they had trauma that, they had not dealt with themselves. And like Gabor Mate says, what the parents suppress, the child will express. And I was an expression of that. I was an expression of my mother's loneliness and sadness and depression and my father's shame and rejection.
I love Gabor's work, and I haven't heard that quote from him. I literally haven't quoted that trauma is not what happens to you, it's what happens inside of you. Exactly. So can you say that one more time?
What the adults suppress, the child will express.
Oh, good. What does that mean? Can you explain on that?
Well, it essentially means, say for instance, you have a wound of shame. If you do not acknowledge that wound and work through it and actually know that there is shame inside of me, there will be no chance for you but to pass that on to your child. So it's not about the fact that we need to be fully healed. I know I experience shame. So the fact that I acknowledge that means I'm not going to pass it on to my children because I'm acknowledging it within me. Does that make sense?
100%. It's like the heal you so you don't hurt them.
Yes. So. And I just want to be very careful because parents get so triggered with this and they think that they need to be perfectly healed. Yeah. It's not about being perfectly healed. It's about acknowledging the emotions that do come up in you, because what suppressing means is we don't acknowledge it. We push it down and we stay stuck in our wounding.
You're so aligned with how I view the world. Yeah. I love this. You said something I really love. The way you articulated it was awesome. You inherit your parents' emotional home. Is that 100%. Correct? Can you elaborate on that as well?
The first 0 to 7 years is where your emotional blueprint, your emotional inheritance is being built. So I want you to think about two of the people that raised you, your mum and dad. Let's just talk about the generic family model. And if a mother is, constantly critical, judgmental, feels unworthy, feels distant, connected, cold from herself, her child will have no chance but to inherit that. If a father is fully stressed, overworked, seeking validation through his success, kind of not present, a child will inherit that. So we really need to, what we need to do is we need to take our parents off the pedestal. So we go through a phase in childhood. First, we idolize our parents, which is natural and normal. They're the source of our comfort, our love, our needs, our security. Then what we do is when we become adults and we realize we've got all this pain, we then can demonize our parents. You didn't meet my needs. You didn't show up for me. You didn't XYZ. The work is to humanize. And the humanizing is seeing that our parents did the best that they could, but also that there were some needs that weren't unmet. And that's the chance where we get to reparent ourselves.
How do we do that? This is incredible stuff, by the way. This is amazing.
So the way that we reparent ourselves is to actually start to talk to ourselves, treat ourselves, and give ourselves what we needed that we did not receive. So it's when in those moments where you feel unworthy, what is it that you would have needed a parent to say to you in that moment? Can you say that to yourself? Can you be present with that emotion? Can you allow that expression of your body, that experience to move through your body? The only reason we have trauma as adults is because as a child, we experienced an emotion and at some point love was taken away when we had that emotion. We were left alone with it. So then what happens is it's like a fracture, okay? And so what happens is it keeps on a loop over and over until adulthood, until we sit with that fracture. So for a lot of people, it's unworthiness. They feel unworthy, they feel broken, they feel, like a void inside. And when you learn to sit with yourself through that pain, breathe, regulate your body, speak to yourself with love and kindness, then bit by bit by bit, that emotion doesn't feel so scary anymore.
And what does this show up as? Because I've got my hunches, but how does someone's got, I'm not enough, I'm unworthy, mum wasn't there for me, dad did this, F you mum, F you dad. We can swear, by the way, if you want to rip a swear word in here. But how does that actually show up day to day? Because some people I've found is they think they've got no trauma. It's like they're just, you don't know what you don't know. It's like the problem unaware people. It's like, well, I'm driven, I'm making money, I'm being successful. It's like there's nothing wrong with me. My childhood was fine. How does those wounds that we might not even be aware of, how does that actually show up in like behaviors, whether it's relationships, whether it's business? How does that show up?
I love that question because the biggest client that I see is the woman who's the perfectionist, the overworker, the overachiever. And what I will say is the person that grew up in the good family is almost like the most wounded of all because what they do is they still want to keep their parent on that in that idle phase, right? And whenever we see our parents as completely not flawed, we're actually in a fantasy, okay? And we're actually creating more pain than we realize in our own children or in ourselves. Yep. So what we actually need to do is understand no human being is perfect. We're all flawed. We're all broken. We all feel unworthy at times. So the person with the good childhood, I think, is the hardest because it's so hard for them to see they often had to perform to be loved, okay? So the way I see that is it's the overachiever, it's the perfectionist. You've got two sides of the same coin. You know that quote around the multimillionaire is no real different to the homeless man? Yep. It's the same thing, right? So I see the procrastinator just as much as I see the overworker and the perfectionist. What I invite people to do is ask yourself, just take a step back from the world and the day-to-day and ask yourself, when you're left alone and you're by yourself with nothing to distract you.
Which most people avoid doing.
Exactly. How do you feel?
Yeah.
What are the emotions you actually feel? Because I would argue 95% of the people on this planet do not know what peace, contentment, joy, and love and freedom and authenticity feels like. I love what you said to me at the beginning of this episode that I am the match, like I'm as authentic. Yeah. That's because I actually am. I actually am authentic because I've done this work. I've done so much inner work on myself that I actually really like who I am. And that's a big thing to say from someone who for 20 years thought about stepping off a ledge and ending her life. I was filled with loathsome, feeling of I loathed myself. And to go from self-loathing to self-loving is such a huge step. And we first need to get to neutrality and acceptance, which is in the middle. Just
to give someone listening to this who's like, holy shit, she's speaking to my fucking soul right now. Have you been in my room watching me? Why would someone, because I want to get into what do you actually do to heal? Because especially I'm very much like, what's the next step?
Yeah.
Tell me what to do.
You're all about the structure.
Yeah, I'm quite a structure, as you know. So But some people, first a lot of people need to know the why before the how.
Yeah.
So what would be the benefit? So say someone's listening to this, it's like, well, fair enough. Maybe I got some stuff, but who cares? I'm just going to put my head down, keep working, keep making my money, keep having the successful life externally.
Yeah.
Why would they want to? What would they get out of actually doing the inner work?
Well, if you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for the people around you. Because when you have a chasm within yourself, when you are disconnected from self, you must be disconnected from others. You can't give to someone else, a child, a friend, a partner, or a parent, anything that you don't have within. I want you to think about this, right? Children don't learn how to love themselves through you loving them. Children learn how to love themselves through how you love yourself. So I want you to think about this, right? Imagine you and I are friends and I say to you, Lewis, I would love for you and Georgia to come over to my house for dinner. And I give you the address and you rock up and I live in this multi-million-dollar mansion on the beach. And you walk in and you're like, oh my God, Nez, this house is amazing. And I'm like, oh, it's so dated. It needs an upgrade. Oh, the carpet's so old and we need new furniture. Oh, you're going to start to think, okay. But then let's say you invite me I say to you, hey, I'd love to come to your house for dinner. And I come in and I'm like, wow, this place is amazing. You are not going to feel like that's authentic, are you? So, if you want your child to feel joy and love and like themselves, you need to treat yourself like that. You need to talk about yourself with love and kindness. If you're hypercritical of self, if you've got high standards for yourself, your children will subconsciously believe that you have those same expectations on them. So if you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for your children.
I've got a question that I have no answer to because Tony Robbins, I love his stuff. I joke and say Tony's the gateway drug to self-development.
Yeah,
he gets
he
so
really
many
is.
people's. I think it's changed the most amount of people's lives directly or indirectly.
Yeah.
And I literally saw a video last night and it was on, came off my Instagram and because I'm obviously into the parenting world.
Yes,
my whole feed's
of
like
course.
parenting and shit at the moment. And he saw that it was this woman, he was doing like a live intervention with this woman.
Yeah.
And he's like, and obviously using Tony's words, he's like, your dad was perfect to you, right? He's like, he fucked you up, didn't he? And I'm like, oh, okay, where's this going? And he, along the summarized version, he's like, your father treated you like a princess, right? He made you feel like you were loved no matter what. But then that ended up creating issues with her relationship where she thought she'd get loved no matter what. So she could take it from her partner. And it's like, and I'm watching this, I'm like, well, I'm having a baby girl soon. Like, am I meant to be treating her like a princess and make sure that she is loved no matter what? How do you find that balance? Do you have an answer to that? Because
Yes.
I'm trying to figure it out.
I saw the same video.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you what that woman did not realize is she was actually modeling the relationship her parents had. So I guarantee you that, and I see this all the time, the relationship you have, what a lot of people do when they've got unresolved trauma, they treat their partner different to their child, okay? And that's very important, okay? So what I see a lot of women who come to me and they're like, my dad was amazing. He was so loving to me. He was so there all the time. My mum was the one that caused the trauma. No, actually, your dad also didn't protect you from the critical. Dad was passive, mother was critical. I see that combination all the time. So again, what's happening is, so what we do is we either get stuck in that paradigm of idolize, demonize, humanize with a person or with several people. I see a lot of people demonize one parent, idolize the other, when actually there must be, you attract what you are. You will never see a fully secure whole person with someone who's damaged. People are feeding their own, I see it all the time, women stuck in relationships with a man that they look down on, right? And they're like, he's got work to do. He's got unresolved trauma. You're the one needing this person to change.
They're the mirror to you, right?
Where are you staying in a cycle that feeds your emotional addiction of judgment, shame, and criticism? So what I will say, I would love to know more about that, but I guarantee she did not grow up in a home where love was unconditional. It was conditional. It's just she witnessed it within her parents, not so much the father.
Where do you go from there? So say, actually, let's start with your healing journey first. What did you do to start your healing journey? I know you had a breakdown around sort of 2020, 2022. Tell us about your sort of dark night of the soul, what initiated you into the work, and then what was that journey like doing the work?
So I would say I went to UPW, Tony Robbins, in 2019.
Nice.
And I don't know if you've heard of the knock and then the bang.
And then the bus.
And then So I went to Tony Robbins. I was in a relationship. My business was thriving. I had $1 million business, amazing locations. I had a team of 25, like a thriving business. But And I remember getting up to go to the toilet one night in the middle of the night, and I just had this sinking feeling of like, is this all that there is? Like, and I remember thinking to myself, I really should do some work on myself. I should look at that. And I was like, oh, nah, I don't want to open Pandora's box. Funnily enough, I went to UPW thinking it would be a business, kind of workshop. Like I went thinking, yep, it's success for business.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time, I hadn't really invested a lot of money in myself. Like I'd gone to therapy and stuff like that. And I remember a good friend of mine, I said to her, but this is $2,500, it's 4 days. And she said to me, Nerida, if you get one thing out of it, it's worth it. And I remember thinking to myself, you're so right. Like here I am so broken. I've got the money. I've got a really successful business. Why would I not just throw my money at that? Anyway, I went down. Day 2, he starts talking about the emotional home. And I have goosebumps now when I think about it. My whole body just went tingly because I realized I had this no matter what happened in my life, no matter what success, partner, relationship, my body, anything, I kept coming back to shame, sadness, loneliness, and rejection over and over and over again. And I came home and it was like the knock. Yeah. And then 3 months later, my partner broke up with me. COVID hit the world. My business was closed overnight. I was homeless, single, and my accountant said to me, I think you're going to go bankrupt. Like you don't have enough money to cover this. And I was living in an Airbnb, looking at the ceiling, just thinking, how is my life here? Funnily enough, I knew that this was happening for me. Because I had a strong belief in God and I knew that God would never give me anything that I couldn't work through. But that then led me to a series of different experiences. So I don't know if you know Amber Hawken.
No.
She's from the Sunshine Coast.
Yep.
She's I would say, spiritual teacher. I was following her work, and so I decided to go to her retreat. And that retreat really showed me that I was just stuck. Now, one thing that's really important to understand is this. When children go into cycles of self-doubt, self-criticism, and self-blame in order to self-soothe when they experience pain alone.
Can you repeat that one more time for me?
Yeah. Children go into self-doubt, self-criticism, and self-blame when they soothe when they are left alone with pain. So I was dealing with, I would have been 39, 40 at the time, 40 years of self-doubt, self-criticism, and self-blame that I was just automatically using on autopilot because I had so much pain I had not yet processed. So for me, going to that retreat and processing my actual stuck, stored emotions, like before that, I would say I was the kind of person I would explode either in anger or tears at anything. Like I would just push everything down, and then all of a sudden someone would say something just, you know that great quote, if it's hysterical, it's historical. I had all these hysterical moments to something that just shouldn't have warranted that kind of response. And going to that retreat and processing a lot of that trauma, like sitting and being witnessed in my pain, in my sadness, in my stories, and also watching other people share their stories. I'm telling you right now, group healing will be the way of the future, because what happens is so many of us have unprocessed shame, and shame thrives in secrecy. It is healed when it's brought to light. So what better way to do that with 20 people when you sit there and you are watching someone, vomit their story, blah, 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 but you don't understand, I went through this and I went through that. I've sat and listened to some of the most horrific stories. Horrific. I'm sure you have too. And to sit in those rooms over and over and shed that shame is so deeply healing to the body. I just came away from that feeling like I was walking on, I could walk on water. Yeah. And it was just a constant leaning in. I always say, if something pops up 3 times, do it. A book, an experience, a workshop, a coach. If something knocks on the door 3 times, do it. And that has led me, to really be sitting here today genuinely like I could die tomorrow and I would die peaceful, content, happy woman. Yes, there are still things I want to achieve. I'd love to become a mother, and if that's God's will, what a blessing. But if it didn't, I would be okay just leaving this earth, having gotten to like that 38 years of pain was worth the last 5 every inch.
One thing, because I want to go, there's some more in that I want to keep going with. Me and my wife had this, it's a rule or an agreement. Agreements sound a bit nicer than rules in relationships. We have an agreement that if the same trigger comes up 3 times, we heal it. So
I love that.
we example that came up. The most recent one was I think about 2 months ago, and it was control. So again, when you get triggered outside of real survival, it's you. It's a projection. It's trauma. It's a belief something's reflecting something. And what I recommend to clients is regulate before integrate. You don't want to regulate when you're triggered in a trauma
100%.
response. So it came up again. And in this case, Georgia was triggered and I wasn't. So I was able to help her regulate. Just breathe, baby. You're safe. I love you. Let it out. Feel. Then I say, okay, what was the trigger? And we have the awareness to be able to have these dialogues. And she's like, oh, it was control again. I said, that's the 3rd time, isn't it? She's like, yes. What does that mean? Time to work on it. Great. Pull up your calendar, schedule it in, and then go do it. Yeah. I just find out you said 3 times.
3 times.
Listen to it. So,
and can I help you with something with the control?
Please
Why do people need to feel like they're in control? What are they avoiding feeling?
I'd say out of control, pain,
Powerless.
Like
so I'm guaranteeing she's got lots and lots of memories from childhood where she felt powerless.
Yes.
So we move into states of control. We move into try to get control because we're trying to feel like we're not going into that powerless state that we experienced as a child.
It's powerful, very powerful. Just quickly, if you're enjoying this conversation, if you could take 2 seconds to leave a comment, like the video and subscribe, it honestly means so much. The bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests get, and you are very much a part of our journey to grow this channel. Thank you. The question I had when you were sharing your story is why were you open to even going to the retreat? Because you said you'd done some therapy, some sort of traditional therapy, and from the way I picked up, they weren't really hitting the root cause to it. They weren't really, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But the fact you would even be open to it, because I've got like the high achiever client who's like not into the, like they come to me when they hit the wall generally. You can listen, you can listen to the knocks.
Yeah.
But it does take a level of awareness, of openness to even be willing to go to like let's call it a spiritual retreat. Why were you open to even doing that?
I was in a lot of pain. Yeah. So like I still had not healed that break. Like, so one of the wounds that I have is a rejection wound. So funnily enough, my father is one of 3 boys and he is hearing impaired. He was sent to boarding school at the age of 3. And so what do you think he experienced a lot of? Rejection, right? But what he did was he idolized his mother. And when I came along, I wasn't actually his like a birth daughter. I was a stepdaughter. That pain needed to go somewhere. And so that rejection got put onto me. So I grew up one of 3 feeling like I never really belonged. He would treat my brother and sister very different to how he'd treat me. So what do you think I kept playing out with my partners? Rejection. I remember it was a very dark day when I worked with a coach, Allura Hallowell, who's amazing. She's about to release a book called Unworthy, Unloved, Unknown, and her work is incredible. And she taught me that I was actually I was causing the rejection with people. They weren't rejecting me. And it was just such an incredible moment. But I had just been rejected again. You know, all I ever wanted, like my whole life, I grew up thinking it's okay. I've been through all this, but as soon as I get married and have children, I'll be happy. You know, that old story.
I'll be happy when.
And so I just kept pulling in partners that emulated my father who could never fully choose me. Yep. Just over and over and over. So at that point, I was going through another breakup. But I will say this, like that was, 4 years ago. Now I'm the kind of person, like my partner and I went away on the weekend. We sat down, we did all of our intentions and goals for the year. One of the things was to strengthen our relationship even more so. So what did? We left the weekend, signed up to Date with Destiny at the end of the year with Tony Robbins. So I would say when I first started this work, I had to be in a lot of pain to commit to coaches, workshops, experiences. Now that I've seen the benefit of it, I don't question it. Every year I sit down and I put 10 to 15% aside of my income. And last year 2 years ago, I worked with a relationship coach, like a deep spiritual, and that was what called in my partner. Wow. This year I'm working with a birth coach, like business. I'll do business, personal every year. So it's a non-negotiable now because you would see it. You would spend a lot of time around high achievers, people that are achieving incredible things. They all have mentors. They all invest in themselves.
I haven't gone down the pathway of this modality or technique. I'm just curious who you have. Family constellations, is that something
I've heard a market, I do follow a guy. I can't think of his name right now, but yes, I'm familiar with it. And some of it does resonate for sure.
I haven't gone down. I just bring it up because me and my wife are getting prepared for parenthood, and our midwife Alex, shout out. we were having a session and she asked, what are your fears around birthing?
Yeah.
And I won't share George's personal answer,
Yes.
but something came up about a family member.
Yeah.
And then she did like a family constellation thing and it just really lined up. It's
Amazing.
like, I haven't studied it or dove into it. I just thought maybe this is in your world or something.
There is a guy I follow, I think he's based in Sydney, and he does a lot of work around that. And it does resonate for me for sure.
Yeah. Question I've got is I've heard different angles on it, and some of them I've got my different angles on it, but I want to hear yours, is why do we pull in, to use your words, pull in partners that mirror our hurt? Because I do believe you create what you fear,
100%.
what you run away from, you run into, your
Yes.
perceptions of projection.
Yeah.
So whatever unhealed hurt, you constantly run into it or you're creating that fear, like fear of rejection, and then you create a partner or a life where you get rejected.
Yeah.
Why does that happen in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I really believe that we're on this planet to heal. Like, we're on this planet for this experience, to go through that work. We're here to experience self-actualization, and we don't really pursue that until we're in pain. And I think that the reason we all marry our unfinished business, and the reason is the parent we all marry our unfinished business. Wow. So what will happen is the parent that caused you the most pain, I want you to think about your emotional home, the emotions you often felt around that parent. You will naturally pull in a partner that makes you feel those same emotions. Why? Because it's familiar, which is connected to the word family. So it's just like if you're raised in a home where you feel content, loved, accepted, safe, you will have no choice but to choose someone who makes you feel that way. The minute someone comes in that doesn't make you feel that way, you will just, it just won't match up. It won't line up. Whereas if you often felt ignored, isolated, lonely, confused, hurt, scared, nervous, anxious, sad, with a parent, you will pull in a partner that makes you feel the same way. And what you'll do is, this is the biggest lie. You'll pull that partner in because deep down you subconsciously are thinking, if I can just change this person, I'll finally feel worthy. If I can just change you, if I can just make you love me and give me what I needed as a child, then I will just be able to rest. The work is actually in letting go of that partner and actually healing yourself.
I heard from a mentor of mine, there's never a child born who doesn't want to heal their parents.
Yeah.
So maybe we're doing it through our partners, eh?
Yeah,
I just made that connection just then.
That's
like,
really powerful.
I'm going to bring in a part of my parents that I haven't learned to love, so I get to try heal them.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So you just gave me an epiphany. Thank you for that.
It's huge.
Wow. I haven't answered one of my questions I started with. So we were talking before you even clicked record about the different style of parenting. I had Vanessa Lapointe on the podcast recently, and she uses types of terms for parenting, and you had two styles that you were mentioning. Can you please elaborate on what they are?
So we're really, every single day, we're creating one of two types of relationships, either a connected relationship or an obligatory relationship. So the obligatory relationship means I need to abandon myself subconsciously in order to be loved and accepted by you. Because what will happen is, as a child, it's too overwhelming and too scary. If a parent needs you, like if you express an emotion and love is taken away, you will learn this emotion, this part of me is bad. So love is always going to win over authenticity. Okay, Gabon Mate talks about this. So I'm going to learn if this part can't be accepted by you, I'm going to hide, betray, suppress in order to keep that connection. And then what happens is you keep doing that through adulthood. So what a lot of parents don't understand is, and I see this a lot, I see a lot of like conditional love. Well, I do this for you, so you should XYZ. And I actually used to operate this way myself, and I still notice myself like, I'm about to become a stepmother, and I notice so much of my own wounding is coming up in that relationship because I'm going into this whole, I'm doing this, so you should give me this. And I'm watching myself in this emotional immaturity like, wow. Yeah. So if we want our children to feel deeply connected to us and accepted by us, I'm going to start saying to parents, take out the word love, because I know so many people who know that their parents love them and don't feel accepted by them at the same time. They do not feel accepted and they do not feel safe. So what does acceptance and safety means? It means I can bring any of myself to you. I can talk to you about anything. I can ask you any questions. And I am not fearing that you will either pull away, judge me, criticize me, or explode, and I'm responsible for your emotions. So many people are still trapped in this belief that they are responsible for their parents' emotions and they're micromanaging them. Why? Because they don't feel safe when that parent expresses that emotion. So let's actually ask ourselves, and we can't give someone what we don't already have for ourselves. Yeah. So if deep down you don't accept yourself as you are and you think, I need to make more money, or I need to get a little bit thinner, or I need to XYZ, your children are inherently going to pick up on that subconsciously and you will pass that on. So if we want a deeply connected relationship, it can't be through just loving them and telling them how much we love them and going and watching their sports and giving them everything that they need. We actually have to look at our relationship with ourselves because they're subconsciously absorbing that through that first 7 to 10 years.
How does one do this? I think we've gone quite big picture right now. I'd like to zoom into some weeds here and some details. So I believe our identity is the reality we live in. It's a box that we play in, and we will not long-term out-achieve what our identity is. It's like
I agree.
The person who thinks they're overweight, they're not worthy of love, and You might have a short-term win, like you do a quick strategy that gets you a quick win, but you'll eventually habituate back to what that box is, and that's the prison. I like the straitjacket example that Peter Crone uses. It's like, I believe we're born limitless, and then we are programmed out of it. Yep. So essentially we're born as these divine beings, and we are limitless, abundant, loved, worthy, all this stuff. But then through life, society, parenting, pain, trauma, we keep putting our own straitjacket on, and then the game is, how do we take it off? Yeah. How does one actually do that practically? So someone's listening to this, you've won them over. They're like, you know what? I've had enough. I've had a couple of knocks. I don't need to wait for the bus, because you don't need to wait for that like horrific breakdown, the marriage breakdown, the business shutdown. You can just listen to the signs. Yeah. What would you tell that person to do now? They're like, I'm ready. I'm in. Tell me what to do.
Okay. First thing is you've got to get honest with your actual thoughts. Okay. So open up a book. And for one day, write down every single thought that you have. But what I want you to do is, on one side, write at the top of the page, love. On the other side, write at the top of the page, fear. And every time you have a thought, you notice a thought in your mind, write it down and ask yourself, does this belong on the love or the fear page? And what you'll start to see is so many of your thoughts are based in fear, okay? So that's the first thing you've got to actually acknowledge. Oh, I'm actually operating from a lot of fear. We think about the scale of consciousness, right? I look at that and I break it up into 3. Yep. Down the bottom, you've got emotions such as shame, guilt, fear, sadness, anger, frustration, criticism, judgment, blame. Then you've got the middle tier, which is kind of neutral, neutrality, acceptance, courage, willingness. It's just kind of neutral. Then you've got the top, which is freedom, authenticity, love, abundance, prosperity, connection. Now, what I think a lot of people don't want to admit, and this is one of the biggest things that broke me free of my pain, I had to you can't change an issue, a problem that you don't first acknowledge, that you don't first fully own. Yep. Most people will never fully actually admit, I actually think thoughts of shame. I actually talk to myself with a lot of fear. I actually talk to myself with a lot of judgment. That's the first step. If you do not own that, you can't change it. So get the book out, write down every single thought you notice popping into your mind. Then when you start to see that and go, right, what's the common emotion I see dominant here? Okay, let's talk about shame.
Sorry, common emotion or common thought?
Common
or
thought,
both?
well, the thought comes from our unprocessed emotion, right? So let's think about this. I'm about to get ready to come and do your podcast. Okay, I'm sitting there, I'm getting my hair and makeup done. Now, if I'm someone that has the emotion, if I'm living in the emotions of, contentment, ease, peace, acceptance, I'm going to be getting my hair done and I'm looking out at the ocean and I'm like, wow, it's a beautiful day today. I can't wait to see Lewis. I wonder what the conversation is going to be like. I hope I can offer some value. Oh, thank you for that cup of tea. My thoughts are fairly peaceful and loving and relaxed, right? But if I'm someone who lives from a place of fear, I might be thinking, oh, what is he going to ask me? What if I don't come across confident? What if I don't manage to say, what if this, what if that, what if I'm not good or right? If I'm someone that comes from a place of shame, then I'll be thinking things of, why would he ask me to be on the podcast? I saw that he had Vanessa de la Pointe recently. She's so much better than I am. Why would anyone even want to listen to what I've got to say? So you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
So the first step, actually get fucking honest with how you talk to yourself. Then we have to change that. And Alex Tripod, love her work, 400 to 600 times. Now, I'll tell you, my wound was unloved, okay? I've been able to create success in any business. I've run multiple, and I can just show up, no problem. I don't have much shame and fear and doubt. But I've always had this little wound of like, what if I'm not lovable? What if no one will ever fully choose me? What if there's something wrong with me? Well, not what if. I was. And that was because over and over and over, I remember these moments of my dad looking at me with disgust, telling me, you're the black sheep, speaking, horror and rejection and shame and pain to him. Now, I forgive him, okay? This isn't about blaming him. He came from pain. But I have to sit with how painful that must have been for a little girl who was 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, over and over and over, to have someone that you need to keep you safe, make you feel so unsafe, unworthy, and unloved. So I had to get really honest. I was driving along this road, right? Here I am, 38 years old, 39 years old, and I keep saying all I want is a partner, a marriage, children, okay? That's what I want. That's my dream. Over here is my nightmare. Single, doing IVF alone, maybe never having kids, just work, no family, no fulfillment. Now, I'm not judging what anyone makes decisions, but that was my dream, okay? So every day I was thinking thoughts that kept taking me down this path. Well, I'm too old. I'm not attractive enough. All the good men are taken. No one will ever want to be with me. No one will ever choose me. So I had to take responsibility for those thoughts. And so remember, I spoke about self-loathing and self-loving. So I was over here in self-loathing. So I had to find neutrality. Okay, so one dominant thought I kept having was, no one will ever love me. Okay, and so I used to sit there and think to myself, okay, Nerida, you believe everyone else on the planet's worthy of love. Yeah. So this is one thing I really want people to understand. You have one set of beliefs for yourself and you have another set for everyone else. Oh. Most people do, right? Because I used to look at everyone I'd talk to and be like, yeah, you're worthy of love. You're worthy of love. You're all worthy of love. Well, Nerida, that includes you too. So it was just neutrality. Yeah. I just had to I couldn't get over here where it was like, you're so amazing and because it didn't feel good, like it didn't actually feel real. Yeah. So if you're in self-loathing, you've just got to get to neutrality and acceptance, and you get there and you integrate that. And now I am the woman who sits here and I'm like, oh my God, like I look at that version of me and I actually feel sad. I'm like, wow, I'm an incredible woman. I'm a beautiful partner. I'm loving, I'm kind, I'm thoughtful, I'm generous, I'm caring, I'm intelligent, I'm funny. Now I'm that woman. But I had to get really honest about the thoughts I was thinking every day. And do you know what I'll teach you?
Please.
I want you to think, you're going to be a dad soon, so this is cool. I remember when my niece, when she could start to walk, you would put her down anywhere and she would run. She would just take off and she'd look at you and she'd laugh and it was like a game, right? Now, I would never just yell at her and say, get back here. But I would never just let her run off and potentially run across the road. Yeah. So I'd do this little come back here, come back here. I call it a gentle corral. Yeah. Come back into I want you to start doing that with your thoughts. When you notice you're off in self-doubt, self-blame, and self-criticism, which is the pattern from your childhood, I want you to gently corral that thought back into, no, we're not going down there, and find neutrality and acceptance. And you need to have, most people think 2 to 3 dominant thoughts over and over and over again. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to write it down and you're going to have to find a slightly better feeling thought. So instead of, Nerida, you're so worthy, you're so amazing, you're so beautiful, you're so worthy of love, that didn't feel real. It was just, you're worthy of love just as much as anyone else on the planet is.
If you're someone who's wanting to grow and take your life to a whole new level, I'd love to be of service. I offer a free 7-day experience of my coaching that you can try absolutely free, and you only stick around if it's a no-brainer. You'll also get a one-on-one call with me. The link is down below. Grab it and back to the conversation. Just to read this back, and I want to keep going with it. So step 1, list out the thoughts, and you got the love list and the fear list. Are these thoughts coming from love or they stem from fear? Yeah. Second is to look over and see what are the common thoughts and what emotions they're stemming from. Yes. And then 3, I just wrote down process it or integrate it. Yeah. Is that the third step?
Yep.
And then how does someone do that? If you're okay, even just going live with me, you can use me as like a role player. Because this is the part I'm like, tell me exactly what you mean by that.
Yeah.
is someone's probably listening to this and I'd say, oh yeah, okay, I can understand. I've got this thought that I'm not worthy, that I'm not loved, that I'm broken, that I'm ugly, that I'm abandoned, that I'm alone. Okay, I found it now. And you just said integrate it. Well, like, what does that mean?
So now what you have to do is you now need to find a thought that you're going to commit repeating to yourself 400 to 600 times over and over and over, even if you don't fully believe it yet. That's the key, right? I'm not going to fully believe it, but I'm going to commit. You wouldn't just, if I wanted to lose 20 kilos and I went to the gym for 1 week and I trained and I cleaned up all my meals, I wouldn't expect to see a six pack at the end of that week. I'm going to have to say to myself, I'm going to give myself 3 to 6 months of just what I call it the broken record method.
Cool.
Okay, broken record. No. So whenever I would notice myself going off on, this is never going to happen for you, you're never going to find that person, you're going to die all alone, I'd be like, no. I would think to myself, no. I'm worthy of love just as much as anyone else is. There is always an opportunity to meet someone. You never know what's coming around the corner.
Yeah.
So it would just be more neutral. So you have to practice. Now, there are 4 ways we rewire our neural pathways.
Yeah, please. Give it
we
to me.
write, we read, we speak, and we think.
Love.
So if you find it difficult to think the thought, write it down. I would write, Nerida, you are worthy of love just as much as anyone else on the planet is. Nerida, you never know who you're going to meet. Nerida, like I would speak to myself over and over. And then the more that I wrote it down and read it, then I would start to feel myself thinking it. And I would start to speak it when I would notice myself. Your words create your world, right? I would notice myself when someone would ask me, how are things going? Are you seeing anyone? My story went from, this is never going to happen for me. I just don't think I'm ever going to find someone, blah, 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 vomit, to, you know what? I've realized that I've got this huge rejection wound. I'm working on it. I've been going on a couple of dates. Okay, now this is another thing I want to teach you. Your world is basically your reactions over and over and over, okay? I want you to think about this.
Yeah, please.
Most people I know have a huge emotional reaction to the thing that they don't want. And then when something even small, tiny happens that they do want, they don't actually know how to emotionally connect with it. So I'll give you an example.
Yeah, please.
I started doing this work and like I didn't get asked out on a date for 2 years, right? I was on Tinder, Bumble, all the things. And I was just frustrated. I'd have these chats and it would disappear and I would get so frustrated. Then I started really understanding like my thinking and my feeling and how it was creating my life. And I'll never forget this one day I got asked out on a couple of dates and I went on the first date and it didn't go that well, right? I was kind of there and I was like, you know, you're not really my person. And so do you know what I did? I came home and I went straight back into my emotional home, crying, frustrated, angry. This is never going to happen for me. So what was I doing? I was reacting to the circumstance. But do you know what I didn't do? I didn't sit there and go, oh, well, I did eventually. I didn't sit there and go, like, what I'm seeing is someone actually asked me out on a date for the first time in 2 years. That's progress. That's actually heading towards, like, even if it's tiny, right? It's still moving me towards the goal. So, wow, I got asked out on a date. That was so nice. And you know what? He wasn't my person, but God, he was lovely and he wasn't horrible. He wasn't disrespectful and he paid for dinner and he followed up. So what a lot of people do, right, it's never enough. The money, the success, the adoration, it comes in and it's just empty and you just keep wanting more of it. When you learn to emotionally not react to the things you don't want. So when someone would not ask me out on a second date, I'd be like, that's no big deal. No big deal. That doesn't mean anything about my worth. I know my man's coming.
Yeah.
So I started learning how to not react to the stuff I didn't want. And the littlest thing that would happen that would show me actually this might be happening for me, I would obsess over and focus on and practice being like, oh my God, this is happening. This is, so what I teach my clients is when you get that, like, $100 sale or that one client that says, I'm going to book a session, pay you $75, instead of going, oh, well, it's not a program that's $5,000. Well, guess what? God is going to keep giving you what you focus on.
Yes,
so if you keep focusing on not like, lack of gratitude, so wow, that's one person that committed to saying yes to me. 3 people liked your reel. Wow, that's 3 people. 3 people are resonating with my work. Yeah. So you need to learn how to emotionally react to the things you do want to create more of that. And the stuff that doesn't happen, just try not to even see it. Just be like, I love this quote. It's very spiritual, but Delulu is the Solulu.
I love
and I live it. I live by it.
What's some practical things within all this? Because I'm hearing you did share some practical ones in there. It's like kind of the habit of being aware of your thoughts, catching the bad ones in quotations, and then moving past them, not suppressing them, but saying, hey, that's not me. That's the old me. That's not the me I choose to. Because I think Hormozy said something. It's like we vote with our dollars or our thoughts towards the person we want to become.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be that sort of, let's say, unconscious person or victim person. I want to use that word. And so it's becoming conscious of it and just doing it as it comes up.
Yeah.
Are there other practices such as journaling, such as meditation, such as visualization, coaching? What are some practical things that someone can do and maybe something that you do regularly, weekly, monthly, daily to work on this?
I'm going to give you 3.
Cool.
Okay. So for me, I did all the journaling. I did all the meditation, all of the thought. I will say this, right? I actually think that most of where we get stuck in this self-development space is we keep focusing on the mind. Yeah. We need the mind to integrate with the body. So I'm actually going to give you 3 somatic tools that really helped me.
Love.
So most people, there are sort of 5 core emotions people get stuck in. Yep. Anger, fear, shame, sadness, and guilt. Most people have 1 or 2 of those. So for me, I will say when I'm noticing I'm feeling shame or I'm feeling fear, one of the things I will do is put my hand on my heart and close down my eyes and roll my shoulders and take a few big, deep breaths and speak to myself with compassion and love. So I'll say something like, Nerida, you're not a bad person. You made a mistake. That's okay. And I will just practice feeling into my body. So what I do is a body scan from the head down. So I'm like, okay, where do I feel this tension? For me, I always feel it in my throat and in my chest. I feel fire, right? It's like a burning fire. Now, if you feel a lot of anger, frustration, I want you to jump and move. 30 seconds, jump and move. Like, oh!
Love.
And I just want you to shake that energy out. Because guess what? When you do that for 30 seconds, you fully move your whole body to the point where your fingers are tingling, your jaw is fully unlocked, your face is like light and tingly all over. Guess what? You're not stuck in feeling thoughts of shame and guilt and fear and anger and sadness. And then the next thing I say is go and stand on some grass, bare feet on the grass, look at the sun, and practice rolling your shoulders and just swaying gently side to side and shaking your arms. Most of us actually, like one thing you have to understand is when you have core emotions stuck in your body, emotion is just energy in motion. It just needs to move. And so many people do the opposite of moving and they think. They want to think their way out of a problem. And I love this quote, the mind will replay what the heart wants to heal.
Oh, that's so good.
It's just over and over and over. So we actually need a little less of the mind and a little more of the body.
Oh, I wrote this down and I was going to do this one first, but I went the other way around, is the top-down versus the bottom-up approach, which is top-down for people that know what I'm referring to. It's very much intellectual. So it's the mind, it's the conscious, it's NLP, it's DeMartini, it's doing sort of mental work, intellectual work. And then bottom-up is the body, somatics, nervous system, emotions. And I think you do both, but a lot of people tend to lean towards more the top down.
And let's ask ourselves why that is. Why?
I would say my answer would be people are scared of feeling. It's painful, it's shame, it's guilt, it's childhood stuff. I love Joe Dispenza, one of my top mentors, and he says, thoughts are the language of the mind, emotions are the language of the body.
I love that. Yeah, good quote.
And you just, I love your answers were all around the bottom up versus like the sort of affirmation thought things, which you did tie in there as well. You definitely had those.
It's both. But like when you're stuck in an emotion, first you got to do is recognize that. Like most people, I'll say to them, how do you feel? How does that make you feel? Well, I just feel like da-da-da-da-da. That's a story.
That's a head answer.
Exactly. That's an analysis. An analysis is the thinking mind. Most people do not know. I could give you an emotion wheel with, 100 different emotions, and most people would never know how to spot and go, oh, yeah, I actually feel that right now. Most people talk themselves out of it. So, and that's why they keep feeling so stuck. So yes, you need to actually understand and if you don't know, ask the people around you, well, how do you feel when you're around me? Because guess what? Emotions are constantly being pushed out. So you can think about this, right? If I rocked up this morning and I was late and I was frazzled and stressed and anxious, you would naturally feel that, right? Most of us are constantly feeding off each other. And I really noticed this, like especially now I'm living with my partner and his son. because I've lived alone for such a long time, I would have clients come in and they might be in a lot of anxiety or a lot of shame, and sometimes I would take it on and I'd have to remember, no, stay on my island, stay in my space, stay centered and hold that space for them. But the closer someone is to you, the more that they impact that in you, right? So like you can think about it, right? You and I, we just met today. We've spoken on Instagram a couple of times. Yeah. But if I was going through something really bad, you might feel for me, but you wouldn't take it on.
And you probably can't not see that, hey?
Exactly.
You can see another layer to someone.
Yeah,
right?
But if you go home and Georgia is going through something, you're going to really take that on. Yeah. And so this is where we move into what's called codependency, right? So most of us live either in codependent relationships or independent relationships. Yeah. Codependent is all enmeshed, all encompassing, no boundaries. Yeah. Everyone knows everyone's business. This is like the good family where it's like, oh no, we all get on really well and da-da-da-da. And mum pays for this and dad does that, but there's no boundaries and there's no like, oh, I'm not allowed to have my own feelings or say, hey, I'm actually not okay with that. Yeah. Then you've got the independent, which is where I came from, totally all neglect. You're left on your own, just figure it out, not enough support, love and connection. But then in the middle, what we need to create is what's called interdependence, where it's like modeling both. So I don't know how we got on that tangent.
I don't know.
Sorry.
I don't know where we're up to. This is just fantastic.
I don't even know. But
you're flowing with it.
So I think that we really need to look at the emotion, sorry. So for me, it's like if you don't know how you feel, ask the people closest to you, how do you think I feel and how do you feel around me? Because if your kids feel stressed and anxious or judged, that means you've got a lot of shame that you're projecting out. If your kids feel lonely and unsupported, maybe you're self-focused, like too inwardly, maybe you're stressed and you're distant. Ask the people around you.
Do you do any practices? I think of regulation and integration tools. Yep. So for me, again, when you're triggered, unless it's an emotional release process, it's like, hey, I've got this precognitive wound from childhood when I was 3 months old and it's just in my nervous system, then yes, feel, let the nervous system close it off. Outside of precognitive stuff, for me, a lot of people I'll use breath work, it's probably the best example. So it's like people, they get triggered, some abandonment comes up, some trauma comes up, and they just breathe and breathe and breathe and breathe and breathe. Awesome. But they haven't mentally processed it as well. So there's the regulation of breathing and regulating versus the integration. What do you do to balance yourself and for clients as well, where it's time, because a lot of those ones, like for me anyways, the way I see it is very much like regulation, like breathe into your heart, all feelings want to be felt.
Yes.
Versus, okay, why is this coming up for me? What's the belief? What's the trauma? What's the perception? What's the coding from childhood that's coming up to it? Because for me, if you just keep regulating, the same thing's going to pop up 100%.
again. So I'm with you.
How do you balance those?
Well, one thing that I would say is do the opposite of what you normally would do. So for me, with my wound around being lovable, I started to notice something, right? I would put myself out there in business. I would have discovery calls. I'd message women, do you want to work with me? I think you'd love this work. 8 of them would say no, 2 might say yes, okay? Now, I would not, if those people that said no, I wouldn't think about it again. I'd be like, oh, well, your loss, right? But over here, I remember going on a date once with a guy that I wasn't even interested in. It was the most dull, boring date. But you know what was interesting? I got home and when he didn't pursue me, I spiraled. So what I started realizing was the way I show up in business is this confident, secure, worthy woman. But the way I show up in relationships is this childlike, immature, rejected, lonely, sad, depressed person. So I started saying, what would my life look like if I showed up with that same confidence? If I showed up and if someone said, no, I don't want to see you again, I'd be like, that's fine, that's okay. And really I would learn how to sit with myself in that wounding of not being chosen. So, I really had to build a practice. When I started dating again, I said to myself, like, you got to think about it, right? Most people avoid things in their life that are going to make them feel certain emotions. So I was single and lonely and like insulated for 3 years because I was so afraid of feeling that rejection again, right? But yet that went against the very goal that I had, which was meet someone, get married, have children. How am I ever going to find someone if I'm terrified of rejection? So I had to say to myself, I need to be okay with that emotion coming up and I need to know it's going to happen and build a process around it. So what I would do is I lived right near the beach at the time. I'd go on a date. Afterwards, I would make myself go for a walk. I would listen to Sarah Blondin. She's a beautiful spiritual coach. and it was all self-love, self-compassion, no matter what, whether the date went well or it went bad. And I'll go for a swim, cleanse my body, and I would just go home and journal and say, Nerida, whatever happens, if someone doesn't choose you, that is not a reflection of your worthiness. And I will say another thing. You know, when you have a belief in God, that he is your father, that you're in his eyes, you're worthy. Like, you know, there's a beautiful quote I heard just actually recently, which is, fear cannot take where,
You got to go. Let it come through you.
Fear cannot capture a soul who knows where she resides. Something like that. It's like basically fear can't take over you when you know who you truly belong to. And like, I would say I'm a born again Christian. I would say that I had a belief around some sort of spiritual force for a long time, but the last few years I've really gone deep into my relationship with God. And, you know, a lot of people are afraid of that, but I would say that the people that are fear it the most are usually the ones that need it the most.
Love. What are you currently working through?
My step parenting wound.
Okay.
Like I'm really, you know, I haven't actually said this on air yet,
Please.
but I have noticed like how triggered I'm getting around my 14-year-old, you know, stepson. And, you know, it's so interesting because, oh my God, you always attract in like, you know, do you know the word contempt?
Contempt. I know the word. I couldn't define it for you. What's your definition?
So the Gottmans teach this beautiful 4 horsemen, and they say the minute these things come into your relationship, it's over. One is defensiveness, one is criticism, one is stonewalling, and one is contempt.
Sure. Can you slow that down for me one more time?
Yep. Stonewalling, which is withdrawing, isolating, not avoiding conversation, like conflict. Criticism, which is a big one for women. That's my wound, like criticizing, judging, in a really maladaptive way, expressing a need. Defensiveness, when someone brings something to you, getting defensive. And then the other one is contempt. So contempt is when you actually look down on somebody like they are less than you.
So you're pedestaling yourself and pitting them.
And you think about it, right? Why do people need to feel superior to someone else? Because deep down they actually feel inferior.
Correct.
So a lot of people, in order to deal with their own feelings of inferiority, go into superiority. This is what we're seeing right now with a lot of people politically, you know, wanting to become very knowledgeable and very much like judgmental of others if you're not a good person, policing other people. It's because deep down they have an inferiority wound. So I can see, and the funny thing is he doesn't speak to me with contempt, but he speaks to my partner with contempt.
This is the 14-year-old? Yep.
And it's so triggering for me because why? That reminds me of my father speaking to me with contempt. And I literally said to my partner recently, I said, do you know what? This is awful to say this out loud, but for the first time ever, I actually can see why it was so hard for my father to love me.
Wow.
I really can.
I can feel that too.
And it's like I love him. I do. I genuinely love him. But at the same time, it is so challenging. I thought I was healed. I thought I was like, wow, I've got my person. I'm going to become a mum. I've done all this parenting work. And being a step parent is one of the hardest things. I've heard people say this, and you know what? I used to judge them. I used to judge them. I used to think, how can you not love a child? And it's so interesting what it's doing in my heart right now.
Yeah, I can feel it.
Like it is, so that's what I'm working through.
How do you feel towards dad having these reflections?
Well, what's interesting, my dad, there has been grief. We were very poor, and I now think, wow, it would have been so hard for him to have financially had to support someone that wasn't his. There has been a lot of forgiveness and a lot of and also, you know, there's a beautiful quote, right, around women. You know, most women when they have a mother wound, they want to go out and have children so that they can be the mother for their child that they didn't get. But the real healing comes when you say to yourself, I wish I was my mother's mother so I could give her all of the love, all of the attention, all of the presents that she didn't get. And that's really how I feel with my dad. Like, you know, they were both, you know, I remember when I was young, people used to always say to me, your dad's done such a good job. Like most deaf people don't work, right? They go on the dole, they, you know, have support. And my dad always worked. You know, he worked as a mailman, but he always worked. And, you know, they used to always say to me like, you know, you kids have grown up so well and your dad has done such a good job. And I was in that phase of demonizing. I hated him, so I couldn't see it. And it's very humbling to sit now as a 43-year-old, like having kids and, you know, understanding how hard it is to make money, to look and go, yeah, that would have been really hard for him to accept me and I'll tell you a story, you know, we have an okay relationship, you know, we're on good terms, but we're not close. But I would say we maybe speak 2 or 3 times a year. And it was so interesting 2 years ago when I was doing all this work on my father wound and my dad and my partner, like Gary came into my life and he was everything I said I wanted. And then I pushed him away. I broke up with him. Why? Because deep down I was terrified to let that love in. So we broke up for 72 days, he tells me later. And I went into this huge, like, emotional, weird thing for a couple of days before I reached back out to him because I knew I'd hurt him. And I reached back out, we reconnected, we worked through a lot of stuff and we came back together. And then a month later, my dad messaged me out of nowhere and said, was I a good father to you? Just out of the blue.
Wow.
And I said to him, Dad, like, you okay? Like, I thought, you know, oh my God, what's happening? And I said to him, Dad, do you want to know the real answer? And he said, yes, I do. And I said, well, the truth is, you know, no, I don't think that, you know, it was very hard for me as a little girl. The things that you said to me and the things that you did were very painful. I said, I know you did the best you could, and he was shocked. And I was shocked that he was shocked, you know, and it's just so interesting, right? Like, he did the best that he could and I'm sure I'm causing my stepson pain the way that I'm showing up for him. I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing. So it's just interesting.
Something you mentioned just before you said about the mother of, I want to become a mother to help my daughter with the mother that I never had, when the real work is going the other way.
Yeah.
If you were to do that for your father, what would you love to give to your father?
Well, I would never send him away. I would never send him away to boarding school at the age of 3 where he'd be gone from his mother for 12 weeks at a time. Can you imagine that? You know, he was beaten. He was, you know, I would have loved him and I would have shown up for him and I would have spent time with him and I would have shown him how valuable he was, even though he had an impairment, you know, because back in those days, this was 60 years ago, 70 years ago. If you had an impairment of any kind, deafness, blindness, you were seen by society as less than. So that's what I would have done. I would have just, you know, really wanted him to experience joy. You know, he loved sailing back then. Like, yeah, I would have really wanted to have just spent time with him and really know him.
What emotion would you love to pass on to him?
Acceptance. Yeah.
If you had a 60-second message to leave to the world, your last message to leave from your heart, what would you like to leave the world with?
That's a good question. Don't waste time on this planet. Pursue every wound, every emotion, every story, every belief. Strip yourself bare, you know, and really actually get honest about the person that you are so that when you're on that deathbed, you don't look back and regret anything, that you really are on that deathbed. And I'm not talking about, you know, achieving, you know, financial fame or anything like that. I'm talking about genuinely leaving this planet the best human you can be. But, you know, also for the people around you, just actually really, really be honest with yourself.
Wow. Thank you for today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. If someone wanted to find you and do some work with you, dive into your work, where's the best place they can find you?
Yeah, you can hit me up on Instagram, Nerida Bint. You can go to my website, neridabint.com. Send me a DM. I love connecting with people. Yeah.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you.